Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to take a look at the Transformers Premium Finish Voyager class Starscream. Let's start off by taking a look at the packaging and then we'll get into the review. So of course up front we have Starscream in his robot and Tetrajet alt mode. We have Starscream at the very bottom. Transformers on the side. We have the Takara Tomy logo. We have Premium Finish and the War for Cybertron Trilogy logo as well. And we have PF for Premium Finish. Also there is a PFWFC and a 04. That stands for of course Premium Finish War for Cybertron Trilogy. And of course we have a very classic Decepticon symbol right there. If we do turn to the side, we have a really cool product shot of Starscream shooting his really cool null ray. I think that looks quite cool. We have Starscream and of course, and again, the Premium Finish and War for Cybertron Trilogy logo. If we do turn to the other side, we have another really cool battle pose or artwork shot of Starscream shooting his null ray directly at you. That looks pretty menacing and cool. And if we do turn to the top, the typical logo of Premium Finish, War for Cybertron Trilogy, and Starscream. And if we do flip to the back, we have several product shots, one of Starscream and a really cool kind of running attack pose, one in sort of a flight pose, and the final one being in a really cool Tetrajet alt mode pose. And that is pretty much it for the packaging. So let's now get into the review. Here we have Premium Finish Starscream in his robot mode. Let's start off by taking a look at the details, starting at the very top with that head sculpt, some really nice black for the main helmet section, some gray for the face, and this really kind of orange-red mixture for the eyes. If you actually do look at the back of the head, there's some light piping, so if you do shine a light over the top of the head, the eyes will illuminate a really cool, menacing kind of red-orange. If you go to the shoulders, mostly done in gray with some blue for the form and hand. Another really cool detail on the figures, there's actually this really cool kind of brushwork, grime, battle damage detail that they put on the figure, which is pretty cool. You can actually see there's some in the forearm, some in the chest, the other shoulder is completely random, not symmetrical whatsoever, which is pretty cool and very well done in my opinion. As to the chest, some really cool gunmetal gray detailing for the turbines, which looks super cool. And there's actually a faux cockpit section done in some transparent orange plastic. There's also some gray, and again, that grime detailing looks super cool. Some more gray, kind of white for the stomach, some red for the crotch. Overall pretty plain, but pretty well detailed in my opinion. As to the legs, it's actually kind of an odd color. It's almost a bluish gray mixture for the front of the legs, which is pretty cool. And if you're not already aware, this is just a straight up repaint of the, of course, previous version of this mode, which was the Siege Starscream that came out in the Siege wave, or the Siege line. And of course, the main gimmick of that line was these posts, which you can actually see there's one on the shoulder, there's a few on the legs. And the main gimmick with that is, of course, you could get an effects piece or a blast effect, attach it to the figure and look like he's been shot or attacked, which I'm actually really glad they kept that feature with this, which is pretty cool. As for, of course, the feet, mostly done in blue, with a little bit of gray here and there. And of course, more of that grime on the front of the legs. If we actually do turn to the wings, the inner wing here, not looking too bad. Of course, there's a bit of waffling here and there, but there's actually a mech tick port for the null rays. There's actually one at the shoulder and the form, and of course, you could use the hand. The traditional way that I usually use is, of course, the shoulder, which I'll show in just a sec. And of course, we have a very classic Decepticon symbol right there. A little bit of red, and there's some more red at that tip. And I actually do quite like that little point at the top as well. If we actually do turn to the back, this is probably one of my favorite areas of the figure. Really well detailed here. Of course, we have this huge thruster section done in some gunmetal gray. This is also blast piece compatible, so of course you can use it in this mode and do sort of an Inferno Beast War style rocket booster if you wanted to, which is pretty crazy. And of course the wings, tons of grime, tons of panels, some red, a little spike there, and of course some more at the tip at the bottom. And of course the Decepticon symbol on the other side, and tons of really nice panels and sculpted detailing. I think they did a really good job with this. Of course, we have the actual Tetrajet cockpit in the back, which overall looks pretty cool, done in that transparent orange plastic. As for the back of the legs, overall pretty clean, really not much hollowness or waffling or anything. So overall, quite impressed with this figure. Moving, of course, down to articulation, starting at the very top with that head sculpt. The head can look up and down, side to side. As for, of course, the arm, it can move out and in, forward and back. Of course, if you want to have the full range of motion, you can move the wings out of the way. I'll cover the articulation of the wings in just a sec. There's also a bicep rotation, double jointed elbow. There's also a very tight wrist rotation. Moving, of course, to the wings, there is a hinge forward and back and a swivel up and down, which is pretty cool. You can do some really cool dynamic poses. I'm actually going to push these back quite far just to get some added clearance for the waist. So there is a waist rotation, but unfortunately on on this mold, on this figure, it is slightly limited due to this entire backpack section. So of course, if you wanted to, you could transform this or detransform, whatever you want to call it, if you wanted to get a better range of motion. But as it is, it can only go to about that far, which is a bit unfortunate. It's still, I'm really glad they included it, because they could have easily just cut out the whole swivel or waist joint altogether, because it's very limited. But I'm actually really glad they kept it. So of course, you can move side to side just like that. As for, of course, the legs, they can kick that far forward. Very good range of motion. That far back again, slightly blocked due to that backpack. They can do a full splits, a very tight swivel, an elbow bend, or I'm sorry, a knee bend. Also an ankle pivot. I think that probably could have been better. The foot can also kick forward and back as well. And that's pretty much it for articulation. So I'm just going to straighten him up a tad bit. And then of course we will cover accessories. Let me just get him back into more of a neutral pose. I think he looks a bit weird right now. So of course, as for accessories, since this is just a direct repaint of the Siege Starscream, it comes with the same accessories, just of course a different coat of paint. Done in this kind of bluish gray color, sort of matching the legs. I actually do quite like it. Really well sculpted. Of course, you can see the scope. There's the handle, the barrel. Of course, this is also blast piece compatible. There's several ways you can store it. Of course, there's a mech port in the wing. There's one of the shoulder, the forearm, and of course you could do the hand. I prefer the shoulder. I think that looks the best in my opinion. So of course, now I have to discuss right before comparisons the price. So a lot of people have a problem with this premium finish line because typically it's very overpriced. It's kind of like Shatterglass in that aspect, but honestly I buy the Shatterglass figures because I love the concept of Shatterglass, and I think they're definitely more worth it because they come with newly molded pieces, new accessories, new mini cons, tons of stuff like that. With this, of course, it is just a direct repaint. There is no new molding whatsoever, just of course a new ton of paint apps, which I have to be completely honest, this is probably my preferred deco of Starscream, of course, over the Siege one, which I will bring out in just a sec. But the price is the huge defining factor. So on Hasbro Pulse, when I was looking at this, it's actually $55 retail price on Hasbro Pulse, of course, whether you have premium or not. Of course, if you don't, it's about $8 shipping. So it gets pretty high. It's over 60 bucks. And you have to keep in mind, this is a Voyager. I would say a standard price for a Voyager right now is about $35, of course. And we paid that for the Siege version. It was about $35, of course, really just depending where you buy it, but about $35. So nowhere near worth that with this figure. I actually got it on eBay for $40. I'd say probably that's the highest you should pay for this, and that's pushing it. I mean, you know, originally $35, that's about $5 or $6 more than the original version. So again, max price, I would say $40. Do not pay the Hasbro Pulse price. $55 is insane. But of course, let's now get down to some comparisons. Here he is with the original version of this mold, the Siege Starscream. So another reason why I bought this mold is, if you don't know, I actually have a huge Seeker kind of shrine going on. If you haven't seen my collection, I'm actually going to do a collection video very, very soon, so make sure you stay tuned for that on the channel. But I actually have a huge Seeker shrine. I have all the Earthrise versions, and now I have all the Siege versions. So there is a ton of Seekers in my collection. That's really one of the main reasons why I got this. And of course, I was only going to buy it if it was on sale, and I found it on sale, and there we go. But of course, as you can see, mold-wise, they are the exact same thing. Really, it's just down to a huge deco change. And to be honest, I definitely prefer this version over that one. I never really realized it before, but the color of the wings and the null rays and the legs is very, very bright. I never really noticed that before. I don't know, but of course, just comparing the two, as you can see, again, mold-wise, exact same thing. Just up to your own personal preference of which deco you would like more. As you can see, the null rays are the exact same sculpt. It's, of course, a huge change in paints. Much more of a dark kind of grayish blue, more of a white gray color for the original. And of course, the Siege one itself did have brushwork on it. That was another one of the main gimmicks and features of the Siege line. There was a lot of dirt and grime, and really this premium finish version just kind of added to that, made it a little bit more better looking, more realistic, and just added a lot more burns and damage and stuff. And I think they did a pretty good job with that. And of course, here we have the back. We have the thruster sections. I think it looks pretty cool in this one as well. And that is pretty much it for this mold comparison. Actually, do let me know in the comment section down below which version of Starscream do you like more, the premium finish or the original Siege version. That is it for comparison, so let's now get down to transformation into his Tetrajet alt mode. Now for transformation into his Tetrajet alt mode, of course, if you have any of the other Seekers from the Siege line, it's the exact same transformation. So what you're going to do is actually go to the arm and the forearm section. You're actually going to open up this entire panel or compartment right here, fold in the hand. You're actually going to use this double jointed elbow and just fold this in as well. Collapse that up, of course, and then close it up just like that. Do the same thing on the other side. So just open up that compartment, flip in the hand, flip up using this double jointed elbow, close it up just like that. And then what you can do is actually separate this entire huge vent section from the main body. So you're just going to untab these, and how this was tabbed into place is there is 2 slots and of course 2 tabs on the body itself. And then what you can do is get this whole panel here. There is a tab and there is a slot in the back of the head. You're just going to tab it in just like that. It might take, of course, a bit of a lining, sometimes hard to see. There we go. And then you can actually push this head all the way back in that crevice. And then what you can do is actually get these sections and flip these forward. These will actually form the nose or the nose cone of the jets. And of course there's a tab and a slot on this side and a tab and a slot on that side. So just tabbing that together. There we go. And then what you can do is actually use that waist joint, just rotate it all the way around, just like that. And then you can collapse the feet and the heel spur, just like that. And of course, these are actually spring loaded, so these will actually fold up into this section right here. But before you do that, you're going to get this chest panel. So if you have any version of the Siege Seeker mold, you know this panel has quite a few problems as of tolerance wise. Usually it's quite loose, so I do apologize if it pops off, because unfortunately with this copy of the figure, it still does have that same tolerance problem. It's usually quite loose. Of course, appearance wise, it seems quite tight, but I've transformed it several times and unfortunately it has popped off. And then of course we can actually now go down to the legs. So there is of course a whole slot section right there, and there is a tab that's just going to slide right into place like that. Do the same thing on the other leg. There we go. And then what you can do is of course position the wings into more of the normal position. You can actually get this entire thruster section, unhinge that, so there is actually a tab here and a notch right there. That's how that was stored. And then what you can do is actually push this down into place. This panel is going to of course cover that like that. But first you're going to actually tab in the arms. They actually tab into 2 places. So there is 2 slots there and 2 tabs there. That's going to tab right into place, just like that. There we go. And it's also going to tab into the wings. So there's 2 tabs there and slots on top of the arms. That's just going to align into place. Do the same thing on the other side. So just tab that into place, tab that in. And then of course you can just put the feet down out of the way. This whole panel here will actually tab in and compress like that. Push the thrusters up or position them however you wish. And then of course the last step is you just kind of fold these sections under the nose cone like that. And there we go. And there we have Starscream in his Tetrajet alt mode. Of course, the very last step to do is get the null rays. Of course, you can kind of position these in many ways. There is a mech port here. This is the usual way, but I actually kind of like to use the same shoulder port from before, because it actually kind of angles them, and I think that looks pretty cool. So again, really up to your own personal preference. So just attaching those in. There we have Starscream in his Tetrajet alt mode. That's pretty much it for transformation. I'm actually going to go off cam and of course reposition the camera because he is a bit far away, so let's go and do that. So here we have Starscream in his Tetrajet alt mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very front with that nose cone. Overall looking very cool. Lots of grime and dirt. Of course, this kind of bluish gray color. It's actually pretty cool. And of course, there's some lighter blue at the tip that looks quite cool in my opinion. We actually have some gray around this entire cockpit windscreen section with some nice transparent orange plastic for the entire cockpit or windscreen section itself. Really nice kind of tip or wing section at the top. And some gray, actually really nice venting detailing there as well. Some more of that kind of bluish gray for this top section and the wing itself. Some nice red there. And of course, tons of really cool panels and sculpting detailing. You actually have to get quite close, but I hope you can see that. That actually looks super cool. A very classic Decepticon symbol there as well. Tons of grime and dirt. That overall looks quite cool. And if you do flip to the other side, of course, the exact same details are repeated there. And there's that really nice stripe of red. I actually kind of would have liked if maybe that red reached all the way and connected to that one. That's just my opinion. We actually have these little fin pieces sticking out back. If you actually do move to the back, we have the entire thruster section. That looks pretty cool. I've always had a problem with this huge chest piece sticking out the back. Of course, yes, from the front profile, you can barely even see it. You can see the little corners there. That doesn't bother me. Just, of course, looking back, it does kind of ruin the cohesive look, the very triangular look of the Tetrajet. Oh, and that's just my opinion. A very minor complaint, of course. Every version of this mold has that problem, so I'm kind of used to it by now. It would have been nice if they could have put this somewhere else. That's just my opinion. We actually do have the thrusters. So these are actually plastic piece compatible. They're the feet, of course, if you want, so you could plug some plastic pieces into there and have them blasting off, which I think is a pretty cool effect. And if we do turn to the other side, underside of the Tetrajet, overall pretty clean. Of course, we have the null rays. These are obviously the legs, but that really doesn't bother me that much. As for, of course, articulation, not much. There's a few, I guess, features you can do since these are the feet, and there was, of course, an ankle pivot. You can slightly angle these and move them up and down if you want to have him looking like he's about to take off or go really fast. So there is a few options here and there, but as for articulation, that is pretty much it. Let's now get down to one Tetrajet's alt mode comparison. Here he is with the original Siege Starscream. I'm actually going to have to zoom in the camera quite a bit, but there we have them together, and I think they look pretty cool side by side. Again, let me know in the comment section down below which between the two of the Starscreams, which one do you like more. Overall, of course, mold wise, they are the exact same thing, really just down to a heavy deco change. And again, I have to prefer the premium finish. I really wasn't expecting me to like this one that much. I was thinking, oh, I'll just buy it because it's on sale, and of course I want to complete the Seekers, but I actually turned out really liking this one. It's pretty cool. Just, of course, a side perspective or a side profile there. As you can see, overall, pretty cool. And of course, a back view. Everything, of course, ends up the same way. That chest panel, never really liked that, but of course I've kind of gotten used to it by now. But overall, that is pretty much it for the comparison. I will do a collection video very soon, so if you want to see all like 9 or 10 Seekers of this Siege mold, I will do a video, and of course I have them all displayed together, so if you want to see them all next to each other, I will show that in that video, so make sure you stay tuned for that collection video coming on the channel very soon. That's it for comparisons, and of course this Tetrajet alt mode, so let's now get down to the final thoughts. Now for the final thoughts for the Transformers Premium Finish Voyager class Starscream, starting in the Tetrajet alt mode. I overall really do like this one. I actually really do like the shade of kind of bluish gray they use for the main body of the jet. It actually looks super cool, and of course the brushwork and the grime and the dirt and the battle damage, I think they did a really good job with. I think it looks super cool on the wings and the nose cone of the jet. It looks super cool, and the little tip of the bright blue looks super cool as well, and the transparent orange plastic for the cockpit looks really cool as well. I also really do like how the null rays can store in two different ways. You can actually use the same mech-tech ports from the shoulders in the robot mode. Of course, you're really intended or supposed to use the mech-tech ports on the wings, but I actually prefer using the same port, of course, from the robot mode. It actually puts them at sort of an angle, and I think it looks pretty cool. They're also blast piece compatible, so you can create some really cool blasting and, of course, attack effects. Also, this figure is compatible with a flight stand, so if you could use, of course, Hasbro Pulse, they made a flight stand, and of course, you could use some custom ones. I actually have some ones that I use in my stop motions. They're actually from Amazon. They're kind of cheap, but actually pretty cool to use on a figure like this, and you can recreate some really cool flight action poses for stop motions, and of course just for pictures or for fun. I'd say probably my only two complaints for this mode is this section back here. So this complaint really is just for the mold itself, not really to this specific figure, because of course there's been 9 other versions of this mold or something like that, and they all transform and end up the same way. I'd say the chest panel on the back does kind of ruin the cohesive look of this Tetrajet alt mode, because you can kind of see it from the front view. You can see that little tip sticking out from that area, so it does kind of ruin the look. And of course from the back view it looks even worse, because you can see, of course, the really cool thruster, and then you just see the chest. So it would have been nice if this could have ended up in a better position, like maybe on the bottom of the jet, or it could have folded into like 2 different pieces. Maybe they could have attached to the wings. Just a thought. The other complaint, very minor, really just a design option, is I actually would have liked maybe if this red connected to this section here and went to the side of the wing. I think that just would have looked cooler. That's just my opinion. Other than that, a really cool looking Tetrajet alt mode. This is actually probably my preferred deco or preferred version of the Siege Starscream over the other one. And of course, down to transformation, if you have any of the other versions of the Siege Starscream mold, of course, if you have Red Wing, the Rainmakers, any of them, it's the exact same transformation. So if you have all those versions like I do, you pretty much have this transformation down. Of course, now down to the remote mode, I actually really do like the deco. The really cool light piping in the back of the head. The null rays can store in several different ways. You can actually put them in the hands, They actually do have them holding in their hands several times in the Netflix show. I personally really don't like the look. I actually typically store them on the shoulders. I think that looks more classic, more G1-y. That's just my opinion. And I also really do like how the thruster ends up on the back of the figure. That's actually pretty cool. You could actually recreate sort of a Beast Wars Inferno sort of style if you wanted to. Pretty crazy, but I actually quite like it. And the design of the wings on the back looks super cool as well. As for my main complaint just with this figure in general is the price. So of course, if you paid for this for retail price, it was actually $55 on Hasbro Pulse. I was able to get it on sale on eBay. That's what I have to say. If you want this figure, if you watch this review and like, okay, I want this now, do not buy it for full price. I do not recommend that because this is a Voyager class figure. It is the exact same mold as the Siege Starscream. Of course, just a huge paint change, paint deco change. And I do prefer this deco. That is just my opinion. And it's a good figure, but I do not recommend paying $55 for it. It's a Voyager. It should be $35. I paid about $42 or like $40 max. I'd say $40 max, of course, adding tax and shipping. Okay, that's fine. But $40 max, maybe $45 if you want to push it. It's a good figure again, but not worth $55. I do not know why Hasbro Pulse was able to charge such a bad price for this figure. I also have to say, since this is an exclusive, it was like sort of a Takara Tomy Mall exclusive. I know Hasbro Pulse had it for like a few days. I think there was like a certain limit or a certain number of orders they could take. They only probably sold like 100 or something. I know it was pretty rare. I think this should have come with like an exclusive weapon or minicon or effects piece or maybe like a stand. I think that would have been nice because it's an exclusive. I think, you know, it's premium finish. It should be, you know, an addition, something more that comes with this one that you can't get with the previous Starscream. You know, it has to be a really good reason why to get this over the other one, of course, other than the deco. The main reason why I got this is I wanted to complete the Seekers and I do like the deco. But other than that, I really think this could have come with like a new weapon, a new accessory, a new minicon, an effects piece, something like that. I think that probably would have made this figure more worthwhile. I think more people would have bought this if it had included more. Other than that, I think it's a pretty good figure. Again, if you want this, do not buy it retail price. That's ridiculous. Buy it on sale. I'm pretty sure I saw many others. Look on eBay right now. I saw quite a few others that were pretty close to how I bought it. It was like $40 or $42. That price, I think, is definitely worth it. Overall, a pretty good figure. Let me know in the comment section down below between the two Starscreams, this premium finish version or of course the original Siege version, which one do you like more? And of course, if you want to see all the Seekers together, I will be doing a collection video quite soon on the channel, so make sure you stay tuned for that, and I'll show the entire Seeker shrine. I have way too many Seekers, but it looks pretty cool. Hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time.